Hello, everyone. Oh, I think my video is lagging a little bit. Hello, hello. Welcome to another live stream in my video on my YouTube channel. And today we're talking about the science of stress. Let me make sure my volume is up, and I have my notes here. Bear with me for a second. I want to make sure that when I do these live streams that I provide value and good information to my community. And so I do write these notes, these thoughts that I have, and I'm so happy to be on time today. It's I needed to make sure that I'm here, right? Because I did say I would come live at 8:30 in the evening. See if I can. Um, I had done a poll, and this was one of the top things that came out as far as what people wanted to know and what kind of information they are looking for. Stress is actually one of the most common questions that I get. And I think it's because we have just tons of information circulating about stress, and we don't know if we can truly trust that information, right? And I we have also, as a society and culture, have come to idealize this stress-free life, and there is no such thing if we go to a surface level as far as hearing those words. Stress free life, meaning no stress at all. However, you can take that term and define it for yourself and see if that is something that resonates with you. I know for me personally and professionally, and also, in terms of human behavior, um, stress is a normal part of life, right? Even when we love what we do. For example, for me, I love being a mom and a wife. I love running my business. My clients are amazing people. um, but I'm not immune to stress, right? There are so many ways that stress can come into our lives because we have to, one, normalize that stress is part of our lives. However, two, suffering and misery aren't necessarily part of that package, if you will. And I will get into that. I shared a post this morning about how we have it backwards. Stress, when we talk about stress management classes that they provide at work, right, in corporations, stress management, techniques, is always about, like, how can I calm down and how can I stay positive? How can I change my perspective? All of those things are very, very good, but they're not sufficient. And there's a lot more conversations that we have to be having. Stress management is needs to be restructured and renamed. And so for me, if I were to, you know, offer these stress management classes, which I do, I would just somehow call them like stress reaction management and stress impact management, because those are actually the two things that we want to look for. How do I react when I am stressed out or I'm feeling stressed out? How is stress, high levels of stress, impacting me? Right now, those two, and I will get a little bit deeper into that. And for at the end of like maybe the 15-minute mark, I will uh, talk about an exercise that you can do for yourself so that you can start to have an action plan. But first, let me go into the science of stress, right? How does our body handle stress? What happens when we are stressed out? What happens when we are, that term, triggered, right? So, when our body detects a threat in the environment, that's how the stress cycle actually starts. Our cat is here, and I don't want him to jump in the couch. So trying to watch him. Um, so stress, right? Like I said, the body detects it, and then it sends the signal to the hypothalamus. You don't have to memorize these names, but that's a region in the brain that's responsible for learning, memory, and all of those things, among other things. There's also other, functions that the hypothalamus does. And the hypothalamus is part of what we call the HPA axis. So it starts there, right? And then it sends a signal to the pituitary gland, which then releases hormones, right? And gets in touch, communicates with the adrenal glands. And that's how we get cortisol and adrenaline. Cortisol and adrenaline are good hormones for short term. The reason why is because if we are in a real threatening environment, then these hormones will help us react in um, in real time, quickly, and be able to um, sorry about that. Okay, so the reaction time, right? The cortisol and adrenaline help us have a reaction time that makes sure that we survive the threat and we come back to safety. Those are the two things: safety and survival. The stress response system is built that way. There's nothing wrong with your biology. It's perfect. It was designed perfectly to make sure that you respond quickly when something is happening, right? So there's nothing wrong with your body or anything like that. However, when the cortisol and adrenaline are released, then everything else slows down in our body. Our immune response, our digestive system, they all have to shut down so that the muscles in our body, the oxygen, all of them can work together to be able to launch us into effective decision making. Cortisol is actually uh, what helps produce glucose and fuel the brain, if you will, right, when we find ourselves in critical situations, right? So, and adrenaline, as you know, like when you are excited, when you have that rush, right, in your body, you feel energized, and we need that when we are in stressful situations. We have to make sure that we are clear in the decisions that we are making. So there are two kinds of stress: acute and chronic. Again, these are general terms, right? But there's always subcategories and uh, deeper things to look into. But in general, acute stress means it's a one time stress, it's a short term stress. Weddings, graduation, final exams, those are right, short term. But chronic stress, that means that it's something that could be constant, something that hasn't resolved in the past and lingering, right? It could be lingering stress and things like that. Now, in order for us, our body is designed or was designed to, was not designed, excuse me, let me rephrase that. Our body was not designed to sustain chronic, constant stress. Our body, God created it to be able to know when it's time to reset, when it's time to repair, when it's time to come out of the cortisol and adrenaline, right? Like, as I was saying earlier, the body pumps those hormones to help us, but it's not sustainable for it to be pumping all the time or be pumped all the time, because it gets in the way of the other things like digestive system, immune system. And so people with high chronic stress, that's why they tend to, not have the appetite. They can't sleep, right? And they tend to find themselves in chronic illnesses because immune system is down, high stress levels are up, immune system down, digestion down. Again, it's that feeling. The chronic stress is that feeling of having to, like, just constantly feel so energized, and most of the time for no reason, because the body is misreading the environment. Earlier, the first thing I said, one of the first things I said was the body will detect the threat in the environment. But if we are constantly stressed out, the body can no longer differentiate between a threat that is real and a threat that is, whether it's imaginary, made up in our mind, or anything similar to that. Um, and so that's how the stress response truly, works, right? Again, the HPA axis, it all flows the body first, then the brain reads it, and then hormones are released to help us either, you may have heard of the term fight or flight or even freeze. All of those responses are things that our body uses to be able to bring us back to safety. Stress is at the root of everything that happens in our lives. Stress is the one that interrupts our memory, our learning, our abilities to learn, and capacity to learn. It is also because, uh, I mentioned earlier too, because cortisol helps in the production of glucose. A lot of my clients who are, maybe trying to figure out how they can get healthier and how they can lose weight and how they can make, their habits stick, we definitely look into the stress levels as well, right? And the stress response system in our body has nothing to do with making sure that we're happy, making sure that we are successful, right? The stress response system is for us to be able to survive stressful situations and to come back to safety. So when we say stress management, what exactly are we managing? So that's what happens to our body. So then how do we overcome stress? I believe that first and foremost, when we have the right knowledge, the correct knowledge about how our body works, about how our system or how our mind works, we are able to take care of ourselves better. And that's really the goal. Hi, Hyro. It's nice that you could join. Thank you. And for those of you who are also watching right now, so good to have you. So this is the next part. The exercise that I want to share is, I want you to take a piece of paper, create like 4 columns. for yourself. And the first column is going to have stressors. So, what are the source of stress that you have right now? Um, maybe it's when my children are not doing their homework, for example, right? And we're on a time crunch and they're not, on time with their homework. That can be a source of stress, right? And then we talked about stress reaction management and stress impact management. So then I'm going to want to understand how I react when my children don't do their homework. So it might be, so you can say, stress reaction. It might be that I start to uh, raise my voice, right? And now, when you talk about reaction, you can talk about feelings and thoughts, but also any behaviors that you see in yourself, right? Do you maybe start to talk fast to them, those kinds of things, right? Those definitely can help us try to figure out what would be the best action plan for you. And then the third column is stress impact. So how does this impact me when I have this stressor? So when my kids don't do their homework, right? Maybe you lose sleep, or you can't do your own chores because then you have to sit with them. So those types of things. And then the last column is, what can you do? Like, what's the action plan, right? So you're looking at the stressor, you're looking at your reaction and the impact of that stressor in your life, in yourself. What can I do? And this is where therapy and coaching can definitely help. Even if it's just I need to improve on my stress levels, right? Maybe it's really high right now. I want to get it down to a medium or low level, right? And when you list down your stressors, you can also rate those stressors between low, medium, or high, right? It could be that, doing homework with your children is a source of stress, but it might be low or medium, right? Let's say it's medium, but it's constant. So there's, those cycles. Another source of stress is traffic, right? So, how do I react when I'm stressed about traffic? How does that impact me? I feel, right? The impact for me is I get so tensed. And then I have these angry thoughts. You know what I'm saying? So, the more specific you are, the better. And then, what is the action plan that will help me, right? So that I can overcome how my body is reacting and how this is impacting me. I will put in, let me see if I can put it in the chat. I have free resources for you that you can access. One of them is called the Equip Your Mind to Cultivate Positive Change. Not three. Actually, I put down six techniques to help you, and you can absolutely use these techniques right away. And I will also put that in the description. And I have just tons of resources. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment and email me. And again, I try to stay within 15 to 20 minutes of these live streams. And so please feel free to message me in any of my social media platforms if there's anything that I can clarify for you, or any resources that I can help you find. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Next week, I will definitely be back. I am thinking of talking about boundaries next Monday, same time, same channel. Or if something comes up in my community, and for all of you who are watching this or watching it on replay, it depends. If you all give me a topic that you would like to for me to talk about, I would most certainly be happy to do so. So I will see you all next week. Thank you so much for being part of my community. And again, in the chat, you will find the free guide to equip your mind for positive change. Take care.